Hey, I recently made a post on Reddit about the optimal video settings for Rocket League, and I figured I might as well make it into a video, right? So the basics are pretty simple, right? I mean, when you're playing the game, you want to be focused on the game, and you don't want all these cool effects to bother you when you're doing all your sick fucking aerials. So what my goal was when I set out to do this was that I would just try to find the settings that would help me have as much clarity and FPS as possible. I'm playing on a 144Hz screen, so I obviously want to stay about above like 160 FPS stable, preferably more. I don't want to drop below it so it feels stuttery or laggy. So I don't really care about how pretty the game is, not that much. Um, and I'm going to share my settings and what my findings are on this. So I'll just go through the settings one by one. To begin with, we have resolution. Pretty easy. Put it to whatever your native resolution is. Not much more than that. Now, this one is pretty controversial, right? What do you play in? Do you play windowed, borderless, or full screen? And for full screen, we can start like this, right? For borderless, we have two negative sides to it, right? We have the input lag that's kind of been reported to come with it for like every type of borderless in any game. Um, it has a little bit of input lag, and we want to avoid input lag as much as possible when we're trying to try hard. And the other thing with borderless is that Windows 10, and I think Windows 8 has it too, has a sort of VSync on the desktop. And if you're running it in windowed or borderless, then that VSync will apply to the game as well. Fuck that shit. We don't want that. Go safe, go full screen. I'm just playing borderless because the recording. So absolutely full screen. Ignore that I'm on borderless right now. VSync causes input lag. Don't want no input lag. Anti-alias is it's about edges, right? And it's about trying to make them as smooth as possible. Kind of takes up some processing power, but there's a big difference between low and high. Well, not that big, but I kind of like to have it on low because there's not much of a difference between low and like the highest and off. There's not much of a difference. I wouldn't say the performance difference is too big when it comes to low. I recommend going for off or low. Render quality, you don't really have a choice except high quality here. If you put it to quality, you can immediately see that the game becomes blocky and weird. Um, Hell no, dude. No, that's it. Put it on high quality. That's good enough. The render detail option is basically just presets of the advanced settings. By the way, just bump your max FPS down to or up to 250. Don't want to limit our FPS. So to begin with, you have the texture detail. There's not much of a difference here. If I run to the ball wall, maybe I can give a better example. If you look around like these things, these are like textures, and if we put this to high quality, the difference isn't huge. I mean, it doesn't take up much processing power, or not processing power, but like it won't drag your FPS down that much. You won't notice too big of an increase. It's basically the VRAM of the card is what's getting used. I have a 1070, which is 8 gigs of VRAM, so I'm absolutely fine on that part. So I don't really care. I'll just put it to high quality, but it's obviously up to you what you use. The world detail is kind of a bigger deal. It's basically clutter, right? It fills up void and some other stuff. If you put it to high quality, you can see some differences. You can see that there's more mist, like in the background, more trees, and the grass is longer. If you put it to performance, less trees, more clarity in the background here, which means more FPS, and the grass is cut way more neatly. You can see kind of a big difference on the grass, especially. So I just fuck that shit, put that down, kill that. When it comes to the high quality shaders, I think it's too big of a difference to leave this off. I think this looks like shit. Yeah, I mean it does give you some FPS if you lower it or if you turn it off, but I think it looks way too bad. So it makes too much of a difference. I just leave it on. Ambient occlusion is basically some extra shadow works, right? I mean, it's shadows within a shadow or whatever it's called. You won't notice much of a difference by turning it on. Like if you can see here, a little bit of shadows. Here you're gonna see a little bit of shadows disappear. It's not too big of a difference. Takes up power. You want more FPS. Fuck that. Depth of field is it's kind of a big deal for me. As you can see, this is depth of field on. You can see that there's like, in my opinion, it's blurry. It's blurry the farther back you go, and the whole thing is just a little bit more blurry, and it just looks so bad compared to when you leave it off, which also increases your FPS. I mean, this looks way clearer than this does, I think, at least. Bloom, it has to do with the lights. You can see the rear lights on the car come alive. The boosts are a little bit more vibrant, makes the lights look way less flat. But on maps like Neo Tokyo and stuff, it can look pretty like overwhelming, distracting in many ways. So I just leave that off. Light shafts and light shafts. This is, have you ever gone up to make a sick fucking aerial and you see like, you get blinded by this shit right here? Like, this is blinding. That's basically light shafts. You can see the difference, right? Yeah. Why would you want to blind yourself when you're making that sick aerial? Fuck that shit, dude. And lens flare, well, while I'm up here, same thing, just it's just a strange light that looks really bad. No need for that. Here's a setting that I actually like to have on. That's an artifact on the screen, sorry about that. A setting that I like to have on is dynamic shadows, because you have the shadow of the ball, right, and the shadow of cars. And especially when the car is above you, or the ball especially is above you, and you might not have ball cam on, maybe you run for a boost, you had it off, and if you just see the shadow above you, it can help you a lot. So even if it lowers your FPS, I like to have it on, just because it could give the position of the ball away to you and make you like navigate if you're below it. Motion blur blurs when you, what is this weird thing in the middle of my screen? Oh, whatever. But it like blurs when you go into motion, right? Which is bad. We don't want the blurring. That's strange. Fuck that. Weather effects is basically just like rain and snow and stuff. So I have made a Reddit post, and I will link to it. I go into a little bit more detail there, I think. But I basically just want to make a video for the people that are lazy. These are just the settings that I use, which I think help me play better. It's obviously just up to you, whatever you want to do. Now we at least know what the settings do, and hopefully you can decide for yourself. Thank you for watching.